Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we do our very best to bring to you perspectives and conversations that inform, especially our Christian action. And we are happy on this edition of Spotlight to be joined by lawyer Charles Kanjama, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and also the chair of the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum. One of the things that really stands out about lawyer Kanjama is his conviction about a values-based leadership, value-based living. And so welcome, Charles, to Spotlight. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Edward. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, and I'm sure that you are a big person who analyzes the state of what's going on in the country. Your views, of course, are widely sought on many forums. And on this edition of Spotlight, we'll be looking at the state of unity in Kenya. That's definitely a subject that you have lots of views about. And let's just start out with just how it's been. We've known every time we talk about division in Kenya, for many years we will talk about tribe. That's what will come to your mind.
True.
But now, recently it seems to now change, and it's still division.
Yes.
But now it's changing to a now more amplified class economic kind of division.
Yes.
And so we ask ourselves, I mean, how natural or how artificial are these divisions? Because now tribe, now class. I mean, just your views about that.
So the first thing I would say, Edward, is that every society, and Kenya is no exception, has some principles of unity and some principles of division. And unity is what creates a common or shared identity. You go to the United States of America, you go to England, you go to, say, Argentina, you go to France. There must be something that makes you a French man or woman, an Argentine, an American, and so on. So there is something that makes us Kenyan. Of course, we have a shared geography. We have a shared history, but our shared history is not just a common shared history. There are different facets. We have a shared culture. Each of us has our own smaller cultural experiences. But we also have a shared culture. So these things make us united. They are principles of unity. And every society also has some principles of division. And the most critical and fundamental element of division is the human person, the individual. I am different from you. You are different from me. And then the second is the family. I'm in one family. You're in another family. And then the third is now the local communities that we belong to. And then, of course, even the different, you could call them state circumscriptions. I'm in one constituency or in one location, you're in another constituency or location. Even in church or religion, we have differences. We're different religions. When we share the same religion, even if it is a Christian faith, we may be in different church traditions or denominations. Even when you're in the same church denomination, you worship in a particular Sunday service or in a particular church. So there are elements of unity, there are elements of division in every society. And I think the question then comes, when do those elements of unity become pathological? Because you can have elements of unity that become pathological when people try to create uniformity and fail to recognize the legitimate diversity, even between ethnic groups, which is very good. This is positive. When do the elements of division become pathological? So that they create a sense of otherness, separateness, division, competition, and they can become very vicious, as we saw in 2007, 2008 in Kenya with the post-election violence, where the polarization creates animosity, enmity, opposition that stops allowing people to experience and benefit from their human dignity, and to value their diversity. So I think it is a very deep question. In the United States of America, you have 50 states. You have people of different diverse races, different genders. You have some who are claiming identity even on the basis of things like sexual orientation and so on, that for people with traditional moral values, we say, no, this is now pathological diversity. Your diversity has become too much. You've refused to remain either male or female. You are going into a spectrum of other diversities. So the same thing now is happening in Kenya. Ethnicity and our different ethnic identities are good, but they have tended to manifest pathologically in relation to election cycle every 5 years. So we align our politics on the basis of ethnicity, and there's a problem there. And the politicians were polarizing us, and we're also polarizing ourselves. And we are blaming the colonialists because they are the first people who came and decided to divide us on ethnic grounds. Although I personally think, and I've discussed this with several historians and anthropologists, that we can't even wholly blame the colonialists for our different ethnic identities, because they came and they found us different. They actually were trying to identify what are the things that unite us. They say, oh, there are these people here, they speak a similar languages, these are the Kambas. And they were having local interpreters who were telling them these are the Kikuyu. And even in the Kikuyu, they had different clans. So they said, okay, instead of focusing on the clans, it's too complicated. Let's just call all these people Kikuyu, because that's what they call themselves, or that's what they are considered by their neighbors. So it was a very interactive process. But it now becomes pathological when it is abused for political purposes. So the same thing with class. We're in different economic strata in society, whether you call them strata or just economic levels. Some people have higher income, net income, some have lower income, some people live in areas that are more expensive to live in, houses that are more costly and have better housing conditions than others, as some people earn higher income than others. This happens in all societies. Of course, there was an attempt to create pathological uniformity in the area of economy or class, and that is communism. Communism means eliminate all kinds of class divisions on the basis of economy. You bring down those with more, you destroy the institution of property, destroy institution of religion, which recognizes differences in people, try to make them the same. But they realized even communism could not make everyone the same. It just created a new class, which were the party leaders of the Communist Party, and a new way of economic arrangements, which instead of being free market, was the decision of government, bureaucracy. So those divisions were always there. So in Kenya, we've also had those divisions.
You know, just when you're at it, it's interesting because 5 years, I mean, you talk about these divisions or these aspects of division become pathological every 5 years. Every 5 years,
aligned
right?
to elections.
So then sometimes you would wish or long or pray that at least there were 4 years of peace, you know, like amazing peace. Then 1 year of a little bit of, you know, competition. But it seems that it's hard to locate a pocket where we can say we were actually peaceful. We had a peaceful time, you know. And the agent you've mentioned here is the politician. You know, that the politician seems to star the citizenry in a certain direction, meaning that it's as if the peacefulness of Kenyans is actually in the hands of the politicians, and as those the only hands really that can determine peace in this country.
That's an interesting question, Edward. And allow me to say that sometimes we also blame the politicians, I included, and yet we don't recognize that the essence of politics is in showing distinction, because politics involves competition of ideas, hopefully, in a marketplace of ideas. It's like there's buying and selling, there's a trading in ideas. And politicians try to persuade the electorate that my ideas are better, my party is better, vote for me and not for this other person. So the politician must create some form of distinction, distinguish their ideas from those of the other person, persuade the electorate that my character is better than this other person. You can depend on me. You can trust me more than this other person. So politicians, to be effective, must find a principle for distinction. And you can do good politics by telling someone my ideas are better than yours, that have a better character, without necessarily defaming the character of the other person. It has to be genuine. I've done this for people. This is my track record. This is my background. So in the process of doing politics and trying to distinguish, there's always that search for what will we use to distinguish. In very advanced or mature democracies in the West, the distinction is mainly ideological, or principally, not wholly, principally ideological, on the basis of some going on the side of social democracy, which when it becomes pathological ends up as socialism or communism, and some going on the side of free market capitalism, which again, when it becomes pathological, ends up with a situation of this trickle-down economics, where you just allow monopolies. Most of the people are poor. You have this lack of focus on the interests of workers and so on. So both ideologies are competing. In America, you have the Democratic Party, which is more on the social democrat side. The Republican Party, which is more on the free enterprise side. In the United Kingdom, you have the Labour Party, which is more social democrat, the Conservatives, who are more free enterprise, and they're interacting, and you realize no one party has the monopoly of good or successful ideas.
All right, now let's stay with the word monopoly, because again, we are trying to find who holds the key, of unity. And let's talk about actually peace in Kenya, because in the present dispensation, or in the present times, the politician, as you mentioned, is a key player when it comes to whether Kenya is going to be peaceful or not. Let's now talk monopoly. Do the politicians have the monopoly, of the peacefulness or otherwise of this country?
Definitely not. In fact, it would be very reductionist to say that politicians, who are a small fraction of Kenyans, would have such kind of power. They actually work through structures that exist, through cultures that they find, through people on the ground. And a politician who asks Kenyans to do something that the Kenyans have no affinity to will become a very unsuccessful politician, will become a failed project. So to succeed as a politician, you actually exploit a situation that you find on the ground. And that is why grassroots organizations are also very powerful. And it's not just a one-way top-down approach in which politicians are influencing the people on the ground. It's also bottom-up. The grassroots organizations, the attitudes of people in the local community also influences the politicians, and is also horizontal. So the influence is top-down, bottom-up, and horizontal. And I would say that some of the very effective politicians began as grassroots mobilizers. Barack Obama began his political interaction or engagement as a community organizer. And there's a lot of thinking that has gone into the idea of community mobilization. And in the community, you then develop local leaders who then become successful. Communities which are bigger come together, then you become a higher level politician until you reach the top. So I think it's both sides. And one of the ways of dealing with politicians who have become pathological, that word again, is by using grassroots mobilization to begin a movement against the negative values or the anti-values of politicians who are harming the country.
All right. Charles, it's interesting, very, very insightful conversations. And talking about unity again, we have the politician who has, in a way, successfully exploited opportunities.
And even divisions.
And all that, whatever he finds on the ground, that's one. You've mentioned now grassroots organizations. That they also are a key part of unity and peace in this country. Do you see other players also, so that this monopoly, this seeming politicians' monopoly, we can demystify it and be able to say, no, there's a grassroots. there's this other institution here. There's these institutions here. They all are agents of, unity in this country. But but the politician definitely seems to have a monopoly.
Yeah.
Just name a few others.
Yes, I would agree. And in fact, I would say that at Kenya Christian Professionals Forum, our principal 4 thematic areas that we started with were actually arranged around the structure of society. The first player is the individual. For us as KCPF, we said life is what represents this thematic area. The individual has a lot of influence or interest in terms of what gets done. Individuals become leaders. Individuals affect the culture through their language, by leading, and of course in other ways. And then second level is the family. In fact, the family is a very important unit. The family is a unit that many times stops the further spread of totalitarian ideologies. And anyone who wants to become totalitarian, those are the pathological leaders. They always find the family as a threat. And then, and for KCPF, the family is a second thematic area. Then after that, you now come to the level of community, which again, at KCPF, we divide between the religious and the secular community. So the religious community, which is church, and the church is not just the church at the national level. You have church at local community level. You have small Christian communities. The church is the other major bulwark against totalitarian ideologies or harmful ideologies that divide people and that go against their human dignity. So church is very important. And at KCPF, of course, the question of religion and religious freedom is important. Then that fourth dimension, now the secular level, the politicians are not alone. You have civil society organizations, you have professional organizations, you have other community organizations, neighborhood organizations. There's a multiplicity of organizations working in the secular space. And of course, you have even the organs and arms of government. You have the judiciary, executive, legislature, the constitutional commissions. All of these are playing a part. The courts are playing a part. So if the politician does something wrong, you can take them to the National Cohesion Integration Commission. Hopefully they'll be effective. You can take them to court. You can go to parliament. Even the political parties, which politicians use for political mobilization, can discipline politicians who engage in hate speech and all these kind of things. So what I would say is that there's a multiplicity, a diversity of organs, institutions, and scenarios in which people can engage to instill positive values, to promote positive values. And also, unfortunately, that same multiplicity sometimes becomes pathological and is utilized by the politician to spread negative values. That's why, for example, there's this debate about church being an avenue for politicians sometimes to preach their agenda.
Now, just right there, because it's good for us to engage that very exhaustively. And so, viewers, we are talking about the state of unity in Kenya. And we are happy to have lawyer Charles Kanjama giving us his perspective. And so we are taking a short break. Stay with us here on Spotlight. We'll be right back.